Okay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Inspire Podcast. I'm your host, Susan, and I am so grateful that you're here today with us. I am doing an episode that is especially meaningful because I get to introduce someone who has walked alongside me in this incredible journey of growth and transformation. She's my personal development partner, my co host on another podcast, and someone who shares with me the profound privilege of having been mentored by the legendary Bob Proctor. His teachings shape both of our lives, and it's an honor to continue that legacy together. She is a gifted human potential teacher, a guide in universal law, and a woman who brings clarity, depth, and possibility in every conversation. Please join me in welcoming the amazing Alexis Gallagher.
Oh, wow, Susan. Thank you so much. It's an honor, and I'm so grateful to be here with you and for the journey that we've shared together.
Yes, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Thank you, Alexis. So we'll get started with the questions. And so, Alexis, I put together some questions, and I was wondering what inspired you to begin working with universal law, and how has it shaped your personal development journey?
Well, funny enough, my sister was the one that prompted me. She kept saying, "Allie, you got to watch this the secret movie, right?" And I was like, "Okay, okay, I'll finally watch it." And and it was fascinating. It was like, wow, and Bob really stood out to me in that. And I started to tinker with the laws, and I got a little scared because I really saw how it worked and I saw how powerful it was. And then I kind of stopped using it. And then I saw how life was not as good when I was working with the laws. So then that had a big life change, and that really got me to get clear about what I wanted out of my time here and decided to make a big decision to go and study with Bob and learn directly from him and kind of got me to where I am now.
Awesome. So when was that right before we went to the seminar together?
Yeah, that was pretty close to after I made that decision. And even at that time we met at the seminar, it was, the thought process was, well, Bob's not going to be here forever, and this is something I really want to do. And while outside circumstances, the average person or every reason not to go was there. Not enough money, not enough time. I had two young kids to look after. I was newly single mom. Everything would have said no on paper. But in following this material, you make a decision, and then everything from the universe begins to fall into place to make that decision a possibility. And lo and behold, I met Susan there. I remember that day we were sitting together at our table for our first Bob Proctor seminar.
Oh, that was so great. So great. Yes. Okay. Well, that's so interesting. And so, how do you define universal law in a way that's accessible to people who may be new to the concept?
That's a really good question because it's now that, you and I have been studying it for, several, half a decade at least. Um, it's easy to get into that mind frame. It's just, it's in our cells, right? It's part of who we are now. But I have to look back to when I was just starting it and how odd and hard to grasp for me these concepts were. And this might be a little off track, but I would just say, like, to people who are just getting started with it, don't give up on it because you don't understand it right away, but believe in teachers like Susan and me that have our belief in you because we know that this material, these universal laws, the program that we have works for you to get bigger and better things out of life. And so, with that faith, I moved forward and just doing what my teacher would say, what Bob would tell me to do, I would do it. Even though if I didn't really believe it, I believed in his belief in me and the material. And lo and behold, it did bring some great results into my life.
So for listeners, a book that's really great to study more in, there's different mentors say there's different amounts of universal law, but there's some seven basic laws in the book called the Kabbalion. But there's also other teachers like Thomas Troward who has talks about universal law, and there's other books, but those, that's Hermetic law, the Kabbalion, and I know that's on one of Bob's study lists. So if anybody wants to study deeper in that there's some books right there. So, Alexis, what universal laws do you find are most misunderstood?
I think an easy one to bring light to is law of attraction because that's a secondary law. And the first law is the law of vibration, which, states everything's vibrating. And so we understand that, and we understand that we are tuned into a level of vibration through our frequency, or as we commonly call it, our feelings. So changing your vibration changes what you attract into your life.
Yes. And so I think Bob was the one that pointed out to us, that unfortunately the secret kind of bypassed that the one main universal law is the law of vibration, not necessarily the law of attraction.
Right.
So yeah, that's important. Um, and so this next question is very similar to what we just talked about, but what universal laws do you find are misunderstood? And you just basically talked about it, but if you have some further insight.
Um, well, I think it just comes down to studying too, because some of these, I mean, these ideas are kind of foreign to us because we're not taught in school what these are. Um, but I think one thing I focus on seven of the laws, but that they're always working, whether we want to become aware of what they are and how to work in harmony with them, or to continue life at a level of ignorance. And I don't mean that in an insulting way, but and whether we want to just get lucky and hit the right chord sometimes, or have it work against us, but they're always working. So might as well study them, learn them, and create a better life by being in harmony with the universal laws.
Right. So every thought we have is creating our future, whether it's positive or negative. And so that's what Alexis and I study and implement all the time, is being at a higher level of awareness so that we know when we start getting off track and going in the wrong direction.
Right.
So how do universal laws intersect with human behavior and mindset?
Um, well, so I mean, mindset is everything, right? So it's that understanding that thought is the most powerful and potent form of energy, the thought force that we put out. And so whatever we're thinking eventually becomes um, our belief system, and it turns into our action, and that's what gets us our results. So that our thoughts create our behaviors, right? So um, and understanding universal law helps us become aware and create maybe a newer and healthier mindset for ourselves that gets us to live in a bigger and better way.
Yes, exactly. And then, it's our thoughts are so powerful that, we're creating our life, and our outside surroundings are a reflection of what our inner thoughts are. And the first time I heard that, I thought, what? That can't be right. I wasn't imagining or thinking that, but you're attracting it every second. So,
That's a really good point, though, because a lot of people first just think, no way, that's not possible. And then, like, almost like a second layer of awareness to that is almost denial, I think, for a lot of people. It's like, no, or I'm a bad person. This was me. Oh, I'm a bad person because I had bad thoughts to create that thing, And it's like you'll learn that shame and guilt are never appropriate emotions or feelings or thoughts. It's just unfortunately how a lot of us are conditioned. Um, but just be grateful because now you know. So now you get to go and create better thoughts for yourself, attract better things into your life, because you're growing your awareness of your thinking.
Yes, wonderful. So, what patterns do you see in people who feel stuck, and how do universal laws help them shift?
I think it's all going to come back to awareness for me. I really feel like that's the biggest key because people have come into this a lot with myself and just with family members and friends saying, "Oh, I'm a really positive person," and then they'll say that, and the next sentence following is, "I don't want this," or "I can't believe that person did that to me," and it's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" Like, wait, hold on, like just listen for a second. They're like, "What do you mean?" But I'm a positive person, and it's like, so it's really growing that awareness. And it's also being able to take a really honest look at yourself in the mirror. And there's probably going to be things that you don't like, and that's okay. I've been studying this for what, like 7 years now, and there's still things I catch myself doing that are just really old habits that bubble up sometimes. And it's like, okay, well, I don't really like me right now for doing that, but you're going to forgive yourself, and you're going to move on, and you're going to choose what you do, how you do want to think or act or speak, and just move forward with that.
Yes, that's so important. And not, just becoming aware. We're not perfect, we're not robots. So, yeah, becoming aware and then getting out of that mindset and keep going forward.
Yeah,
Exactly. So, can you share a personal moment when understanding a universal law changed your life?
absolutely. So, it was when I had made the decision to start uh, studying with Bob because I was just going through a divorce and it was really challenging. Um, and I guess making part of that is making that decision, being persistent in your thought, and um, just having that faith too. So there's a lot to lean on there because there are several laws that come into play there, but just being open, having an open mind to learn something new, to not accept or reject the information, but to take the idea and use it and then see if it didn't change my life for something better.
And then also you have used the law like when you were visualizing maybe a client in front of you, and then not too long after that, there's a client in front of you ready to purchase.
That's true. Yeah, I would use that visualization. I mean, I still do, but what the example Susan's talking about is when I was selling cars and just would, it might be slow. It might be like, oh my God, there's no leads coming in. The phone's not ringing. What are you going to do? Well, you can't freak out because you're just going to push more of that clients coming to you away. So through the law of non-resistance, you settle and you visualize on what you do want and you see it and you feel it as if it's right in front of you. Picture a family most of the time. I like working with families and they're so excited and happy to be, buying the car. They see the value, they're happy to pay the price. And guess what? Yeah, not a very long time, either in a couple hours or definitely by the next day, there's a family at my desk buying a car. So it's how powerful it is.
Yes, that's great. That is powerful. So for beginners, which universal law do you recommend they start applying first?
Mm. Well, I would say the law of cause and effect because that is Emerson states it as the law of laws, and it's how our thinking creates our results. So really getting aware of your thoughts, having again that honest conversation, if you will, with yourself, but being open and being honest. And here's the big thing that really set me free was to take full responsibility for everything that was on in my life. Because what that does is it takes away all the blame. You don't have to point your finger, you don't have to blame at anybody. That removes a lot of negative feelings right there. All you have to do is, okay, this is where I am, and it was all past thinking that precipitated thought that has manifested. And now I can release that all. I can forgive myself, I can forgive others, and that removes a block in you to awareness of love's presence. And then you get to go and create. Like Van Gogh says, I dream my painting and then I paint my dream. And so you get to go and just in your mind paint what you want next and just let that grow and come to fruition for yourself.
Yes, yes, and it sounds so simple, but when I first people say, "Oh, yeah, I can think what I want to think." Yeah, of course, but when you start thinking about it and you actually start analyzing and writing down some question to, answers to hard questions, you realize that you don't necessarily always think in a positive way. Um, and you realize that and you become more aware of that. So yeah, that's very, very powerful to do that is ask yourself some questions. How do you help clients bridge the gap between spiritual concepts and real world action?
I love this question, Susan. This is probably so has I had, come across this information before as I, watched The Secret and then kind of had this, timeline and then I was back in it with Bob. And the thing that I got from him that really changed everything for me was like that massive puzzle piece that you're searching for. You know there's something else out there. You know you can do better for yourself. And it was the picture of the mind. He calls it the stick person because we think in pictures. So we need that visual of what we are in our essence and how we operate to build a better life. And then the second is that we operate on autopilot. Most of what we're doing is just autopilot. We're not giving any thought to even how we speak, what we're doing throughout our day, and bringing awareness into that and how we can reprogram our set autopilot to get
Yes,
better
that's
results.
great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Bob talked about being on three planes of understanding, and the spiritual is the first because that's where we came from, and we're all, your body is 5% of who you are. The other 95 is your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's such powerful stuff.
It is.
What are some common mistakes people make when trying to apply the universal laws?
What comes to mind is just thinking that they already know this stuff or they've tried it and it doesn't work for them, right? They're like, I know, or yeah, but but this time was different, It's like, no, okay. Um, Susan and I are always studying this, just like our teachers and mentors. You're constantly getting it. You're scratching the surface. It's not to be had, it's to always be gaining a deeper understanding and a higher consciousness. Um, and that even if it didn't work for you in the beginning, maybe there's some tweaks or changes or a little different way of understanding the material that will have it work for you. And Susan and I know because we both have used it in our lives. So we've both created great results for ourselves. So it absolutely does work.
Yes, it does. What does true personal transformation look like through the lens of universal law?
To me, and this ties into some of the other questions you asked before, but it's a big one for me, or at least I guess from my own perspective, is the law of non-resistance, I would say. So let go and let God. When you're really in the flow, when you're in praxis and everything's in alignment, everything's just flowing totally naturally. You think of something you want, you manifest it almost instantly when time's collapsing because you're in such harmony, you're working so well with the laws. That to me is the ultimate transformation where you're always at peace no matter the circumstances going on around you. That's what I feel is gold there.
So, yeah, I understand, a lot of times I more and more find myself being when I'm in harmony, when I'm in the flow, um, I'm not thinking about, Bob always taught us not to think about what you can get, but what you can give. And when you're in harmony and flow, that's what you're thinking about is what you can give. And it's like you're in tune with spirit, with the higher power. And so things do just flow automatically for
I
you.
love that. Yeah, it's like, how can I help? How can I be of greater service to mankind? And how can I sh just show up and be myself and add value to the world? And because I think a lot of people sometimes think they have to do this big, great thing or be this big, great person. And sometimes it's just as simple as getting ready for the day and showing up for somebody who might be really down and out. And it might be a simple smile that you give them passing by on the sidewalk that for some reason, or a nice gesture or a kind word to them that could completely change their life. So it can be really simple acts, building that self-worth and image that we're important and that we're here to help each other.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That was beautifully said, Alexis. How do you help clients stay consistent when their external reality hasn't yet caught up with their inner work?
That's a really good question because it's a great reality check. It's so true, right? I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Why am I not seeing the results? This isn't working. I knew it. This is baloney. This is witchcraft, whatever you want to call it, right? All those are going to probably bubble up for you. You're going to have your closest friends and family that you believed in tell you the same thing. I know because it happened to me. But it takes time because those paradigms are so insidious. They're buried not just from the time we were little babies and our family was raising us, but it is also from our ancestors that our paradigms, which is a set of belief systems that controls how we are on autopilot throughout the day, how we act, think, what we believe in, how we manage our money and our time, and other aspects of our life. So, um, so you have to not accept or reject these ideas in universal law work, but you just have to take it and use it, and then you begin to see the change. But we always say stick with it for, 30 days. And if you miss a day, you start over again because you're reconditioning your mind, you're changing that old belief system. And sometimes it can be really hard to do that, right? These ideas are simple, but it can take some work. And it has to be consistent. You have to be
Hmm.
persistent with it.
Yeah, we have to remember the law of gestation and it takes the law of
Yes,
gender. It takes a while for that seed to manifest and we don't dig it up and keep looking. We let it grow. We water
exactly. That's
it.
right.
Can you share a client success story that illustrates the power of alignment?
Um, yeah, I can. So I had a young client and he was in the car business and he kind of entered through his mom who was also in it. And he was maybe not wholeheartedly into it and I had shared my coaching with him, I shared my insights with him and it wasn't very long until oh, he moved to a different state. And then 6 months later, I'm talking to him, and he's like, "Yeah, you guess what? I'm the used car manager of this Chevy dealership in Utah, and I'm buying cars and doing all this, and I'm doing really good at it and being successful at it." I'm like, "Wow, that's wonderful! Like, what changed for you?" And he says, "Well, I just did exactly what you told me to. I put my head down for 6 months and just did what you said." I was like, "That's amazing."
Yes, that makes you feel great.
Yes.
That is fantastic. What a great story. What role does emotional regulation play in alignment with universal law?
Um, well, that's huge. that's like a third of the whole process right there because again, our emotions, our feelings are our frequency. So when we understand that everything's connected and there's millions of different lines of frequency, and our feelings tells us where we're tuned into. So say if we're at a low frequency, we're not really feeling good, we're getting sick all the time, we're getting injured all the time. We want to say, oh, well, accidents happen. Well, no, there's no such things as accidents or coincidences. Again, here it might hurt a little bit, but you got to take full responsibility for that. And then you say, where's my goal? Well, my goal is, 10 steps up on the next frequency. Well, before anything's going to actualize for yourself, guess what? Here we are at the law of vibration again. You're going to have to put yourself in that frequency of already having that goal, that thing that you want. And then by the law of attraction, you're going to meet with that desired goal.
Yes. Yes, that's one of the great teachers, Neville Goddard talks about feeling is the secret. And yeah, you have to think and feel and act like you already have that car, you already have that house, you already have that job. How would you feel? Well, you'd feel magnificent, you'd feel grateful. You'd be
Exactly.
happy, you'd be relaxed. So then feel all those feelings as much as
Yeah.
you can.
Exactly. And it feels so silly sometimes, right? You're like, well, who do I think I am here, you know? And and then there's that internal battle too that takes place between, oh, you liar, and you have to just, okay, let that pass and just keep believing that it's going to happen for you because it really will.
And some people will look at you like, why, what are you so happy about? What are you so excited about? What's wrong with you?
You're right.
And it's like, well, I'll explain it to you if you have time.
Yeah, that's one of my disclaimers is that watch out, you're going to be happy all the time, no matter what. You're going to think something's wrong at first, but that's the power of working with these laws.
Well, I've heard in the past, I used to hear Bob say something to the effect, you think you've reached this level of happiness, and then you can get happier and you can be more, more happy. And it's like, what? Doesn't make sense. And he was right. And he was definitely right. So, how can someone tell when they're out of alignment, and what's the quickest way to shift?
I think if the awareness isn't there, I think as you get deeper into it, like Susan and I can tell when our thoughts are off and we'll correct quickly. But if maybe you're newer to it, or if it's been a while since you've been working with the laws, you might not have that awareness right away, but things are going to start to happen, right? The universe is going to start to be your feedback to that, right? Giving you back what frequency you're on. You might be getting sick, you might not be feeling well, things might not be going your way, accidents might start happening. And so then that's your cue to take a moment and be like, okay, like, thank you for my awareness. Let me reset. And the thing about it too is you don't have to beat yourself up about being off track with your thinking. Don't do that. Sometimes it helps to figure out where where that came from, but you absolutely don't need to. All you need to do is get back on track with the right thinking to where you want to be.
Yeah. Put your attention where what you want, not what you don't want.
Right.
Who is the great oh, you and I both follow him.
Michael Bernard
Yeah,
Beckwith.
yes,
Yeah.
Beckwith. He's always saying that.
Yes.
Intention.
Yeah.
Intention. So what's the biggest misconception people have about manifestation or universal law?
Um, I would say they probably think that other people can do it. Maybe people with special powers or, psychic abilities, things like that, but they think that they can't. And that's absolutely not true. And on that note of psychic, intuition, it's one of our six higher faculties. It's the way we communicate or receive messages from greater spirit. But we can all grow these muscles. We can all become stronger and better manifestors, people working with the laws. It just takes a constant study, but don't let that stop you either. It can be reading just a sentence a day in a book that reaffirms these ideas. And it has to be that constant drip of positive information because we are surrounded by so much negativity in our culture, our media, everything like that. So it has to be, it's a little, just think of it a little bit every day, and it's going to make a huge change in your life.
Mhm. And it's always important to start out your day in the best, frame of mind. This is the best day of my life. Do gratitude in the morning, exercise, whatever it takes to raise your vibration, meditation. Both Alexis and I do those every single morning, and that sets you up for a win-win day.
Absolutely.
How do you address skepticism from people who seek this work as woo-woo?
I like that because I had to face that in my own family. My dad who even we would there's a family business and there's a lot of driving involved. And I was little, I was maybe, 7 years old. And I remember driving around and listening to his audio tapes on, positive thinking and motivation and all that. And then when I had come back from studying with Bob, he was like, "Allie, is this some sort of cult? Like, this is just terrible. I don't, how can you be following him?" Right? And I was like, Dad, like, it's okay. And then year later, when I was very successful in the car business, he calls me one day and he goes, "Ali, if it wasn't for that Bob Proctor, you wouldn't be where you are today." And I was like, "Yes, Dad, you're right. I believe you're absolutely right."
So
Um,
funny.
so that's just an illustration of, yeah, you're gonna get that. There's gonna be naysayers to that. But all I can tell you is it absolutely works because it is universal law. It's just the way that this universe works, always has, always will be. Again, it's going to be up to you if you want to work with it or not, but I highly suggest working with it because not only is it amazing and you can truly get anything you want out of life with it, but it's also really fun too.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of people that it's so powerful that, yeah, they don't believe it. There's a quote, that if once you start becoming more and more successful, people will always chalk it up to, oh, they got lucky, or, oh, something just hit just right. It didn't have anything to do with the way they changed their thinking or their
Mm,
acting or their feeling. It
right,
only changed because it was luck. They hit
right.
the lottery somehow.
And there's no such thing as luck, people
Right.
are, and I actually have a friend that's a jackpot lottery winner, and it's because of where their mind was. That's all it is. And to the universe, a dollar, if you're going to manifest a dollar to, $100 million, there's no difference to the universe. It's only you getting in your own way. That's all it is. Because you think something's big and you think something's small, but to the universe, it's all the same size. It doesn't matter. Just it's always there to serve you. It always wants to give you what you want.
Yes, exactly. Okay, well, what universal law do people unknowingly break most often?
Hmm. That's a good one. Um, well, gosh, I mean, it could be so much. I mean, I think it's just a frequency thing, at least the people that I see because so law of vibration because they think they're positive and they're really not. And so they complain or they say what's not going right or they're cursing certain things, right? When we really need to be giving thanks for everything in our life because we don't know how the universe is setting up bringing the good we desire, but it is always working for us. So to give thanks in everything, whether we spill a cup of coffee, be grateful for it. Declare that's good. I don't know why that's good, but it's good. And I'm thankful for it and I'm happy about it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a really big challenge to your listeners and to people. it can be challenging to stay in that mindset sometimes. And especially I think with, people who have a lot going on in their lives to, meditate and get the right mindset and stay in that frequency.
I think it was W. Clement Stone. No matter what happened, he would always say, "That's good. That's
Okay.
good. That's
Yeah.
good."
And it works. It's like one of those little hacks you can just keep in your pocket and use that, and you'll begin to see a shift in how your day plays out for you when you use it.
Yeah, there's a lesson in it. There's a
Mhm.
lesson in it and everything. If listeners could implement one practice today to align more fully with universal law, what would it be?
One practice. I think affirmations, if it's not too played, right? I think a lot of this stuff can be kind of buzzwords or trendy, right? And so then it kind of gets worn out and people don't use it. But I'd say, it really does. I am is a directive to your spirit, and we are spirit manifested in human form. And so that comes through the form of maybe in the morning, and Susan and I both do this. We write our gratitude out for the day. I have more than one, but I guess that is just one, and I'll stop there. But yeah, just saying and in present tense, so I'm so happy and grateful now that I have. And you can list things that have already materialized in your life. You can write down things you are looking to manifest and feel it like it's already here in the now.
Right. And it makes it more powerful when you answer why. Why is that important? Why am I grateful for Alexis being my partner? Well, I could go at a deeper level because it gives me an opportunity to help other people and it gives me a chance to grow. I grow, she grows. You can keep asking yourself why and go deeper and deeper, and that really puts it in, you really feel it then. And that's what we were always talking about
Good.
in teaching is you have to feel it.
That's true. That's really good. Yeah, asking the why. And you might have to ask yourself why 7 to 10 times before you really get to the heart of it. There might
Yes.
be surface answers to that, but dig deeper.
So what daily habits or ritual help you stay aligned? It's funny, I don't mean to interrupt, but a lot of these questions, it's like we already answered them, but we're just going deeper and they all tie in together.
They really do. Yeah. Um, but again, you're right. It's important to keep digging because you just like it's all through repetition, right? We hear these ideas thousands of times, but finally, one time, 1,000 times, 2,000 times, 5,000 times later, it clicks or it clicks in a deeper way that gets other things going in our mind. But to answer that question, I'm writing out my self-image every morning. Um, might sound tedious to some people. Oh God, do I have to really do that? And it's like, well, try it, right? Of course, try it, but it becomes really fun because you're like, yeah, I really am the author of my story, and I literally get to sit here with a pen in my hand and say how I'm going to show up today, who I'm going to be, who I'm becoming, and you can write anything you want.
And it's interesting because when you do that, you often change it. And I think it's partly because your level of awareness changes and you're like, you're like, wait a minute, I'm going to rewrite this because I want to make it better. And so you
Mhm.
rewrite the next day, you change it and you up the level or, you get more detailed in your description.
Yeah, and I think part of that is probably our paradigms, right? That we're kind of capped here, and then we start to loosen up and have some fun with it, and we're like, well, wait, if I can really have anything I truly desire, well, let me rewrite this a little stronger, you know?
Yeah, exactly. What's one question you wish more people would ask themselves on their personal development journey?
Oh, I love this. But what do you really want in your heart of hearts? If you could have anything, be anything, and be successful at it, what would you go for? If everybody could just live from the heart and go for what they really, really, truly want, regardless of any conditioning or circumstances, I think there'd be such a greater level of joy and happiness in the world. And we're getting there. I believe that we're getting there.
Yes, that's great. What's the most powerful universal law lesson you want listeners to walk away with?
Um, it's gonna go side by side to the last question that you really truly can have anything that you want. You're gonna have to sit and be still and meditate on what you want, and it may take a couple days, it may take a week to let that surface because again of our paradigms and our conditionings and the limitations that have we've put on ourselves or family, not, with no bad intention, but just that's how it is, our culture and everything like that. But that you truly can have and be and do anything that you want. That desire, right? If you can see it in your mind, it can absolutely become real in your life. And to just believe in that and not let anything from the outside stop you or the inside.
Yeah. So, one final question for our guest today. Alexis, what three or five books do you find most insightful to study and to put into action in your life?
I'll go in order if I can. Would be number one would be Maxwell Maltz's psycho-cybernetics. That brings us the idea of how we operate on autopilot and get in self-image because you can never outperform your self-image. So that's a huge one of the master keys, right? Think and Grow Rich, of course, by Napoleon Hill. He talks about faith, persistence, desire, and universal laws in there too. So really extremely powerful book with some great stories to go along in there to help the ideas come to life. Um, I love um, I'm skipping Charles Haanel's Master Key System. I had that book on my shelf for a long time before I actually read it. And yes, everything has its timing, but I was just like, this is one of the most amazing books I've ever held in my hands. And just the way it's written too, it's a fairly small book, but it's so potent. It's so packed with wonderful ideas. It's the I am, it's the directive to the spirit, how you can get anywhere just by declaring I am. I love that book. Napoleon Hill, I'll go back to him. There's so many great books, so it's really hard to choose. But maybe I should mention Joseph Murphy, and The Power of the Subconscious Mind. That was one of my favorite. He breaks it down. Again, another slim book that gets broken down really well into, manifesting more money for yourself or a partner or any of those main things, health as well. And um, what else do I love? Um, the Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill brings some really interesting concepts. He has a lot of other great books too. Like the Success book is pretty thick. I'm reading that right now though. U Squared by Price Pritchett. That's a great one.
You're talking about Napoleon Hill. I just ordered the one that you just mentioned. Is it Master Key to Riches? I think. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think he might have that one too. He has
Yeah.
quite a bit, and I honestly haven't read them all yet. So, and then I couldn't not say, right, Wallace Wattles and
The Science of
thinking
Getting Rich.
The Science of Getting Rich. Yeah, that's a phenomenal book.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Alexis. I appreciate it. And this has been great. And you gave a tip for the listeners to put into practice. I think you gave more than one tip.
Probably, yes.
So that is great. I sure appreciate it. And be sure to join Alexis and I again on the Frequency Shift, our regular podcast. We just started Think and Grow Rich.
Mhm.
And reach out, send out a message on the YouTube channel or the Frequency Shift, and we're here to help.
Thank you so much, Susan, for having me. It was a blast.
Oh, it was. Thank you, Alexis.